Um, what was I guess what would be what's the most interesting thing that you learned in that interview? The interviewer or the author of the piece was Matt Sullivan, who works for Rolling Stone, previously worked for the New York Post, and has written a book. So I guess I don't know what the relationship is between the two of them, but I guess he followed Steph around and did like 5 different interviews to piece this thing together.
Sounds like he did more than Under Armour did for Steph this summer. um, I think some of the interesting things is like, we know Steph is like a cocky guy.
Mhm.
But he like presents himself and not in that way unless he like really gets going.
Mhm.
And so I'm not surprised when he gets cocky, but like it still is a little bit like, oh shit, like I forgot that this guy, kind of has that to him. But I think another interesting thing was I didn't know a business partner like cheated him, like how that happened to the like Rihanna and how that happened
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
like LeVar Ball, I think as well. I didn't know that happened to him. I thought that was pretty shocking.
Yeah,
Um,
that hasn't been out there. I mean, I haven't heard it, but
yeah.
they were mentioning they were using that as an example of when he has gotten really mad. Like they're talking
Mhm.
about this temper that he has. The what did they call it? Like Wardell mode or something
Yeah,
versus like
I've never heard that.
the normal calm demeanor. Well, who uses Wardell is the
Marcus.
well, yeah, Marcus uses his name, but um don't the Light Years guys use Wardell to describe like a different version of Steph?
Oh, man.
Maybe I've got
Well, I mean,
I
because
got it
I
confused.
just read Marcus's book, and almost each chapter is like a different version of Steph that you're learning
Mhm.
about. And I want to say
Mhm.
Wardell was in there, but I don't know if it was for the purpose that Rolling Stone was using it for.
Yeah. I think the thing that I was most interested in, well, there were the Kevin Durant comments, right?
Yeah,
Where
that's what caught the media's attention,
yeah,
or
that's
like,
what went around the media, which
mhm.
is the idea that Steph was down 100% to play with Durant. And I think it's pretty like for him to say that, he also knows how hard it would have been to trade for him. And so there's not a whole lot of risk for him to say that, but I want to believe that he truly loved those 3 years because it's like the best basketball that
We'll
you
ever
could ever
see.
see. So you go back to Showtime Lakers and that era of the Celtics. I'm sure those fan bases see that time as like the best. And then obviously the Bulls have 2 different three-peats, and their fans probably see those as the best. But you know, the way that they played basketball and just the attention that those teams had, like it was nuts. It almost feels like it was like so long ago, but really it's not. Like it's only like 3 years ago. But I really liked the idea that Steph and KD get along, and Steph seems to give him the benefit of the doubt. And he says, he's a little bit misunderstood. There's a little bit of a trust thing there with him, but ultimately, he's a team guy and X, Y, and Z. So I thought
Mhm.
that was cool, and obviously that's what the sports writers or the bloggers are going to run with. But the thing that I thought was most interesting, and they used this name twice. So somebody either I kind of wonder if Tiger Woods stiffed Steph in some way because there was 2 separate comments in this piece about how Steph has done more for minority golfers than Tiger Woods has ever done. So I found that to be like, wow, like what did Tiger do to you guys? Um, because, Tiger's the most famous golfer to ever play,
Yeah.
and he's one of the greatest or one of the greatest golfers, whatever, however you wanna describe that, who has ever played. And you would think that on that level, Steph and Tiger, not say that they would be friends, I'm sure they're quite different people if you know the Tiger Woods story. Tiger Woods a little bit closer to like the Michael Jordan personality than the Steph personality, I would think. But it just struck me as really weird that Tiger gets pulled into this thing in 2 different quotes, as if he just, it sort of is like, oh yeah, Tiger's the one who should have the most influence, but here's this basketball player who's got the most influence. And I'm sure
Yeah.
Tiger has done his stuff. I just found that part interesting because Steph's not a golfer. Steph is a basketball player. Um,
I
the other thing that I liked though was the Obama stuff in the beginning. Like that was
That was
pretty
cool.
cool. That was
That
pretty
was cool.
funny. And Steph is he's a Christian. He has a liberal stance on a lot of things, which is kind of an interesting, you know, disposition for him. And there was the thing about that he said he would like to take this moment back when in North Carolina there was the issue with the bathrooms, and he had made the statement that I hope that we can still play in in Charlotte for the All-Star game, which was a little deaf to
Yeah.
the reality of the situation, right? And so he admitted, like, yeah, I wish I could take that one back because I needed to know more about what I was talking about, which
Yeah.
is a thing, right? Like,
And
and the reason why I wanted to talk about this with you is because of your school upbringing, right? Like you had a lot of that in your upbringing, and I imagine what you think about those learnings. You sort of use them, but you also look at them from a different mindset as an adult now versus when you were, a school child or even in high school.
yeah, I personally feel like I fell a little deaf to, like, some of the agendas that the Christian school was trying to push on me. I don't know, I just wasn't even totally paying attention to the academics to begin with, so I wasn't paying attention to the agendas they were trying to push. But I thought that it was interesting in the article, they start with Obama, they kinda start with politics, and it kinda felt like 60% of the article was,
Mm-hmm.
politics, right? And I feel like it's interesting to see how religion is playing into some of his beliefs, because that wasn't the only thing that I feel like religion caused him to be deaf to a situation or maybe want to take a situation back. But he hasn't said he wants to take this back yet, but
Mm-hmm.
he says he's neither pro-choice nor pro-life. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was interesting. He chose not to speak on the Roe v. Wade thing. And I do agree that I feel like athletes are like athletes are like expected to say
Mm-hmm.
something and use their platform when something happens. And I'm not necessarily sure if I agree with that or not, that they should be like forced to or feel like the need that they have to, because I feel like sometimes athletes, at least in my Twitter sphere, it's mainly sports. I feel like athletes are held to a higher standard than some of the damn politicians we have in our country. If they don't
Mm-hmm.
say something, or if they say the wrong thing, or if LeBron actually doesn't read a book when he says he does read a book, like why is that a bigger deal than Ted Cruz saying that guns should continue to be legal or whatever the hell that statement was? But anyways, I do agree with Steph in that aspect where it's like, shit, does he really have to say something about everything? But I feel like that statement, I'm neither pro-choice nor pro-life, is it seems like a combatant of the religion playing a part into politics.
And the fact that his mom had an abortion right before he was born, right?
Yep. Yep.
So that's another wrinkle to that thing. Um, you doing podcasts on the sports sphere, you probably don't feel the need to feel you probably don't feel like you need to be up to date on a lot of the political things that are going on because you're like, oh, I'm doing sports stuff. That's kind of what I need to know. And I remember being in class with one of my professors, my radio professor, and he was just like, you have to be aware of everything. Like you have to be aware of politics and religion and world history and what's going on in Ukraine. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything about all of those things either, but I do attempt to know what's going on from a maybe back in the day it was newspapers. You'd kind of read up on stuff, and now it's we're getting most of our news through podcasts or through websites that we follow or whatever. But that is a thing for Steph that he probably didn't think that he needed to know when he came into the NBA. because the world changed, right? So many things happened in the world, and then he felt he had to be more updated and have a more worldly view and have an opinion because somebody was going to ask him about it. And we see it with Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr has a sharp political mind. Like, I think it's funny because the folks that Trump goes after, this is years ago, but those folks that he went after were really people who knew more about the subject than he did. And when Trump was spewing out some of the things that he did, he uses an interesting tactic of sort of being attacking. And when somebody is attacked, they get defensive, and then they have to sort of defend being attacked, and it kind of takes them away from their point of view.
Mhm.
Kerr is not as famous as Donald Trump, but he has a public stage and he has a public forum. Steph Curry, Twitter follower for Twitter follower or whatever, he's probably just as or more famous than Donald Trump. So he doesn't have to be defensive in any way. He could focus on what the thing is and then move on. Whereas the Trump trick is to get people to react
Mhm.
very emotionally and then fight, like, and then be uncivil. Whereas Steph and Steve Kerr, they're like, yeah, I get it. I know what he's doing. And here's what we're going to say. Boom. And then they move on. And so they have that platform to be able to speak in that way. And it's been cool to see them speak in that way. Uh, I don't know. The who knows that I sort of got a sense of, does Steph want to get into politics? Is
Mhm.
this something that he's interested in, or does he like being influential with his voice and his brand to back the people that he really believes in? That's also how he can do it as well. He doesn't
Yeah.
have to actually be a politician.
I thought it was interesting also how he said, I think he said, like, that whoever the Democratic nominee is should, be as attacking as Trump was, or kind of match his energy. I don't know if
Mhm.
I agree with that, but I think
Well,
that's
the
something he.
Michelle Obama line was, "When they go low, we go high," which a lot of people took as why are we letting them bully us kind of thing. So all that stuff is very interesting, and it's essentially like, I just see it as like public relations or marketing. Like it's just like just one person marketing themselves in a way, and people will bite, or people will have an opinion or whatever. All right, I didn't mean for it to delve completely into politics, but like you said, that was a big piece of the article.
It
So
was like 60% of it.
definitely read it, take a look. Steph is, I wouldn't say he's completely an open book, but I was surprised at a lot of the things that he decided to talk about. So it
Agreed.
was a good look at him.